You have saved $1 million or more for retirement and you think the hard part is over. But here's what nobody tells you. The mistakes that wipe out $1 million nest eggs almost never happen during the savings years. They happen after. And the worst part is most people do not see them coming until it's too late. Today, I'm going to show you the 3 mistakes that can create significant challenges for retirees with 7-figure portfolios. And more importantly, how to make sure they never happen to you. Hi, I'm Scott O'Connell with Tactical Investment Advisors. Let me get straight to it. The first mistake catches almost everyone off guard, and it has nothing to do with picking the wrong investments. You have probably heard of the 4% rule. Withdraw 4% of your portfolio each year, and your money should last 30 years. The 4% rule has been a commonly cited retirement income guideline for decades. But here's what many people miss. It assumes something dangerous. It assumes the market cooperates with your retirement date, but the market does not care when you decided to stop working. Here's what happens when it does not cooperate. When you pull money from a declining portfolio, you are not just taking a withdrawal, you are locking in losses. You are reducing the number of shares left to recover when the market bounces back. And you are doing it every single month while the market is still falling. This is called sequence of returns risk, and I have seen it materially impact portfolios that initially appeared sustainable. Let me show you exactly how brutal this can be. So we have 2 retirees. Both start with $1 million. Both withdraw $50,000 a year. Same average returns over 5 years. The only difference is the order of those returns. So retiree 1 gets good years first, bad years later. Retiree number 2 gets the exact same returns but reversed. Bad years hit first. Same investments, same withdrawal amount, and the same average return. But retiree 2 runs out of money years earlier. Why? Not because they did anything wrong, but because when the market dropped, they were forced to sell shares at the worst possible prices. Fewer shares means less money participating when the recovery finally comes. Over a 30-year retirement, that timing difference alone can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars. Many retirees misunderstand how vulnerable withdrawal plans can be to sequence risk. The math treats year 1 the same as year 15, but the reality is the first 5 to 10 years of your retirement are particularly vulnerable periods. Get unlucky with timing, and even a strong savings history may not be enough to fully offset sequence of returns risk. If you're watching this and realizing your withdrawal strategy does not account for this, you are not alone. This is exactly the kind of analysis we do at Tactical Investment Advisors. If you want to see what a stress-tested withdrawal plan looks like for your specific situation, I have put a link in the description below to book a time with me. The second mistake is what I call the retirement tax ambush. And I call it that because it arrives exactly when retirees feel most secure, years after they stopped working, when they think all the big decisions are behind them. Here's the story most people believe. I will be in a lower tax bracket when I retire. Lower income means lower taxes. It sounds logical, but it does not apply to every retiree. Here's what happens to a lot of them. You spend your entire career being responsible. Defer, defer, defer into your 401k. You watch that balance grow and feel great about it. Then you hit the age when required minimum distributions kick in. Under current law, that is 73 if you were born before 1960 and 75 for those born in 1960 or later. The IRS says start withdrawing whether you need the money or not. It is also worth knowing that the Roth 401k accounts are now exempt from these lifetime RMDs, which is one reason why Roth strategies may be worth evaluating for some retirees. But for traditional pre-tax accounts, suddenly your taxable income spikes. You get pushed into a higher tax bracket than you expected. Your Medicare premiums jump because of IRMAA surcharges, and your Social Security becomes more taxable. And if your spouse passes away, it gets even worse. The surviving spouse pays single filer rates on nearly the same income. They call it the widow's tax trap, and it catches people completely off guard. Let me tell you about a couple I work with. They had done everything right, saved diligently for decades. Combined, they had about 2.3 million in pre-tax retirement accounts. They were proud of that number and they should have been. But when we ran the projections, here's what we found. Their required minimum distributions were going to force them into a higher tax bracket than they anticipated. Layer in Social Security taxation and IRMAA surcharges, and they were staring at an effective tax rate that could potentially exceed what they paid during their peak earning years. Decades of saving, and a huge chunk was going to the government because the potential impact had not been fully incorporated into their retirement plan. The solution exists, but it requires thinking years ahead. Strategic Roth conversions during the gap years between retirement and when RMDs begin. Filling up lower tax brackets on purpose instead of waiting for the IRS to force your hand. This is not about avoiding taxes. It is about choosing when and how you pay them on your terms, not the government's terms. The difference between a reactive approach and a proactive one can be meaningful over a long retirement depending on your specific circumstances. The third mistake is the one I wish I could make every retiree understand before they need to learn it the hard way. Emotional decisions at the worst possible moments. Research has shown that many investors underperform broad market benchmarks over time, often because of behavioral decisions, not because they pick terrible investments, because they panic at the bottom and chase returns at the top. They sell when they should hold. They buy when they should wait. Most people know this. Most people think it will not happen to them. Here's what nobody warned you about. This problem gets dramatically worse the moment you stop working. When you had a paycheck coming in, a market drop hurt but felt survivable. Why? Because you had time, you had income, and you could wait it out. In retirement, watching your portfolio drop 30% feels like watching your future disappear in real time. You are simultaneously losing money and depending on that money to live. The psychological pressure is completely different and it can lead investors to make costly decisions. I will never forget March 2020. A client called me in a panic. They had 1.2 million in their portfolio and the market collapsed by over 30% within weeks. Every instinct told them to sell everything and hide in cash. I understood the fear. It was completely rational. It was also exactly wrong. If they had followed that instinct, they would have locked in massive losses and missed one of the fastest recoveries in market history. Instead, we made a small tactical adjustment. We stuck to the plan. Their portfolio recovered within months. The difference between a more successful retirement outcome and a more challenging one often comes down to 2 or 3 critical decisions over 30 years, not which stocks or investments you pick. Whether you can resist the urge to blow up your own plan when everything feels like it is falling apart. And here's the thing most people do not consider until it is too late. The version of you sitting at 72 watching your portfolio drop is not the same person who held steady through 2008. Research shows risk tolerance decreases as we age. The stakes feel different when you cannot go back to work, when this money is all you have. So, having a strategy matters, but having someone who could hold that strategy steady when your brain is pushing you toward an emotional decision might matter even more. At the end of the day, here's the bottom line. $1 million nest egg is not a guarantee of a successful retirement. Sequence of returns risk can drain your portfolio faster than you expect. Tax inefficiencies can significantly reduce after-tax retirement wealth over time, and emotional decisions at the wrong moment can undo decades of disciplined saving. Many successful retirees are not necessarily smarter than everyone else. They simply have systems in place designed to help avoid these common mistakes. Building that kind of system starts with understanding your specific numbers, your withdrawal rate, your tax situation, your risk tolerance, and how those pieces fit together. If you want to sit down and see what that looks like for your situation, book a time with me. The link is in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this helpful.